Okay, I'll share screen straight away because as usually I prepare a beautiful presentation. We have a big topic today, which is really central, as I wrote in the announcement, mastering attention. It's essential for anything we do, mastering our minds, and central to our minds would be our attention. Whatever we do personally, in personal development, professionally, and in general, quality of life will depend on it, and how I'll tell you in a few moments. So first of all, let me introduce myself once again for those who never met me before. My name is Oxana Bondarchuk, and I certified mind mirror practitioner and trainer, and also online events moderator for the Institute for the Awakened Mind. Maybe I've been with the Institute for the last 9 years or so. Time flies, really. And also I have a background in psychology as a teacher of psychology. I have a diploma in transpersonal psychology and background in corporate world as business trainer and corporate executive. So I'm from Russia originally, but right now I'm in Byron Bay, Australia. If I would give an official introduction of myself, I would say I'm someone who is absolutely obsessed with studying the invisible, intangible, and how we can make a cartography of this invisible world. And for example, I would love things like this, the mind mirror map of consciousness. This is one of the examples of the subtle world cartography, or something like this, subtle bodies and chakras map. And of course, much more, all these languages of the subconscious, as transpersonal psychology suggests. And this program in particular can be considered as a follow-up from my very first opening up. At least I say it like this myself, the program devoted to energy reading and the mind mirror, where I was talking about how I see the world, how I see things that from the first sight might seem very abstract. Things like spirituality, light, creativity, and all of these things, they're quite abstract from the first sight, but not to me anymore. I can see them, decipher them, demystify them from the point of view of energy flow. So today we'll be talking about attention. If you haven't watched this webinar, that might be of great help because I will still base my presentation on the same principles that I described in that very first one. So it's all about attention, and take any topic of today. We know attention deficit is growing. And for me personally, it's a hot topic because I can see that my opponents, they have less and less time or ability to perceive whatever I'm saying. The attention containers are very small, very shallow. It's almost like it feels we are preoccupied by our own thoughts. And very few people can still properly listen, and be able to receive. And as we know, receiving, it's not just listening to other people, it's also listening to yourself. So it's a skill. And I guess today I will touch upon that a little bit as well. And then mindfulness, of course, attention. We pay attention, we become aware of something, and mind becomes full, and our life becomes full because whatever we do, we feel the moments with our presence. We feel the moments with our attention. That's what it's all about to me. And then intuition, extrasensory perception. And any of these, again, it's about your attention, your ability to divert attention inside and listen to what's happening inside, and then maybe listen to what's happening not just inside of you, but through you. You connect and tune in what's happening on the bigger scale, what's happening in the world, what's happening in the universe, what's the trend. Because right now we live in such busy times, in a turmoil, literally. And I don't know how else you can find your way unless you learn to tune into this bigger currents of bigger events and learn to navigate them, because otherwise you may get squashed and lost and completely disorientated because everything is changing so fast. And then energy work, of course, how this is done, it's done with our intention, with our attention. So again, healing, personal transformation, or manifestation, by which I mean creating our reality and manifesting our dreams. It's all about energy work as well. How strong and powerful are our intentions, our vectors of energy that can hold and manifest and heal. Peak performance, same story. Creative flow, same story. Spirituality, same story. Eventually, it all comes to attention. So there will be 4 parts in my presentation today. And the first one is the most grounded, the most common, so to say. It's psychology and neurophysiology of attention. So let's have a look at definition, different models, functions, and qualities, and of course, start practicing. Because almost anything these days you can find, information is not a problem, but practice really is. What's the most common definition of psychology, attention from the psychology point of view? It's a cognitive process of selectively concentrating on specific aspects of the environment while ignoring other stimuli. Whatever you find, there may be few various formulations of this definition, but in the core of it, you will see this reference to the spotlight. It is the spotlight of our consciousness. And obviously, it has certain characteristics. So let's keep exploring it more. What's attention in neuropsychology? Obviously, like anything in psychology and neuropsychology, doesn't have one explanation, one school or one tradition. And anything related actually to our nervous system and the brain is quite complex. And despite of our attempts to segregate it and divide and reduce and see everything as separate, it's really a very complex process, obviously. And it can be seen honestly, in general, any activity related to nervous system and the brain will be related to our attention. And first of all, we can classify maybe 2 groups common to the nervous system. It's bottom-up model where it's related to ascending reticular activation system, brainstem and basal forebrain, and their communication towards the cortex. So that would be all the incoming stimuli and our cortex, our brain processing all the stimuli from the environment. So it's related to arousal, alertness, and vigilance. It's just common survival function, right? And then top down, which will more classify us as humans, right? Because we have our will and we can control and guide our behavior. So that will be top down, where prefrontal cortex, which is basically the front of the brain, will communicate further with parietal and limbic and then coordinate down, give instructions based on the received information, what and how, or maybe even guide our behavior. And it's related to context, motivation, significance, and volition of our will simply. And then there are 2 other very popular main models or systems of attention. One called posterior system, which again orienting to sensory events. It's involuntary and helps us to orientate and see what's happening around us. So like any loud stimuli right now, sound would attract your attention naturally. And then anterior system, which is related to executive control. And this is voluntary. That's what I said. It's probably that system that we are most interested in if we are talking about mindfulness, if we are talking about any work we do with the mind mirror. It's more about this. So sustain attention to objects and events, select based on abstract information, and switching among tasks. And here on the pictures, you can see there's parts of the brain that will be related to our attention. Here in the bottom of the slide, there is a link that will take you to a beautiful article exploring in detail, seriously, and multitude of different models and theories and even every particular little function will be connected to what part of the brain is playing the key role there. So I invite you to have a look if you're interested to explore more. And of course, talking about neuropsychology, we can't skip neuromodulators, because this is the chemistry, this is the actual communication going on. And there are a few that particularly are related to attention and focus neuromodulators. So they will be acetylcholine, related to sensory perception and sustained attention. Probably most known, dopamine these days. We're all addicted to information. So now you're getting another load of information. A boost of your dopamine should be happening at any moment, related to your motivation and working memory. Norepinephrine, which is basically, in other words, can be called adrenaline. And by the name, we know it's related to our stress, or in other words, simply response, arousal, and alertness. And a couple of more glutamate, and which are responsible for just communication, just feeding the nerves and allowing the communication to happen. So thus they also participate and contribute to focus, flexibility, and inhibition. So if you really want to dive into the details, I did a beautiful program or series of programs a couple of years ago in 2022. And I discussed basic anatomy and neurophysiology, where I started from very scratch, describing every single part of the brain and touching every single brainwave group and where it comes from, what it stands for. So you're welcome to watch it. There is a video in our video gallery. So healthy attention eventually will come to our ability to effectively focus, sustain, and control our resources, to perceive, process, and respond to stimuli in the environment. Overall, as you can see, attention involves a very dynamic interplay of a few processes, not just really cognitive, but emotions are involved, because emotions help us highlight what's important, what's not, and thus they guide us. What's more important, obviously, will attract more of our attention. And physiological, because we are trapped in this earthly body. It's run on physiological basis that allow individuals to effectively engage with their surroundings, accomplish tasks, navigate daily life with efficiency and resilience. So here we come to the very, very first exercise. And just to make sure the flow of information is easy, I will invite you this time to maybe write some answers in chat box. So right now, when we are starting our class today, what do you think? How big and full is your attention container? Is your attention bucket empty or full? Because normally when we enter into a new task, so just say a new activity, we often drag with ourselves some residue from previous impressions of the day, some thoughts that maybe something that we need to remember and are afraid to forget, or some annoying thoughts about some experiences that we can hardly digest. Or maybe these are not thoughts, maybe these are emotions. So if you have to rate yourself, and we know to study well, we need to be open-minded, to be like a clear blackboard. So I'm inviting you now to rate maybe how busy your mind is, how ready you are to receive, where 1 would be I'm totally ready, and 10 would be I'm full as it's really hard, I don't have much capacity. So would you like to rate a little bit and provide some feedback? And maybe just let's proceed. So see your attention container right now as a blackboard, and do a simple mental exercise. You may keep your eyes open or closed, it's up to you, but just start using your imagination. And that's our key tool when we work with attention, and start wiping it so that whatever is there doesn't distract you anymore. We have to do every single transition like that. And really, it's really nice to have a plan and maybe just a rough idea and um, register the moments of transition from one task, one activity to another. So we can erase our blackboards. And when we enter the activity, we are fully there. Because say when you're driving a car, what's most important in this period of time that you are driving, the safety is the key. You might do all other things along the way, listen to the music, to podcast, talk to a passenger in the car, but really the priority would be safely arrive from point A to point B. And sometimes it's really good to be conscious of that, set the priority, set your goals, and be clear what's going on in the moment without dragging other things in. And then think for a moment, wouldn't it be nice to enlarge the blackboard? So whatever you had in your imagination as a blackboard, just maybe try to enlarge it a little bit more. Say if I ask you to make some notes, virtual notes, mental notes, this bigger blackboard obviously would be able to take more in. So here we come to the very first quality of attention, which is related to volume, or our ability to perceive a large amount of information and maybe hold a few objects or more objects at the same time. And here I placed nice illustrations where I said, really, we can see it as a bucket, as a container that we are taking in with, but at the same time, it's also what's at our disposal to invest. And this is a watch read can as a symbol of that. And as you probably know, or that might be handy to know, that say if you would like to take in more, the secret is the more interconnections you can see, or the better the information is structured, the more logically these pieces and bits that I'm presenting to you today are connected, more objects you will be able to register and take in at the same time. And here is another exercise. And how easy is it for you to focus on one thing? And the most common focus in most of mindfulness meditation would be your breath. So I decided to start and share with you a screen recording from Velistas actually that allows you to slow your breath. So this will be a bar going up and down, and I invite you to follow it. Or maybe if it's too hard, because it's quite slow, much more slow than your usual breath rate, just try to slow down as much as you can without feeling uncomfortable. So I'll press the play button, and as the bar goes up, you can inhale, and as the bar goes down, you exhale. And let's practice. So that was about 1 minute, and I'll stop it now. So if you like, you can tell me in chat or just answer yourself. How many times were you distracted while you were trying to focus on your breath, on your inhale and exhale? And I can be honest, I probably was distracted 5 times. It's really hard to focus on one thing. But again, here is one thing that is always with us. This is our breath. As long as we are alive, we're breathing. This is very natural process, very natural cycle of contraction and expansion. which pumps energy into the body and helps us to even control energy levels to some extent. So this is something you can always return to practice focus, because here we're just playing and it's more like a teaser because there's so much you can do. So here we come to the second attention quality, the most common that we associate with attention, really the key word, focus and concentration. So this is our capacity to concentrate attentional resources on one object and screen out distracting stimuli. And then honestly, interesting fact is that attention span lasts about 8 to 12 seconds. If the minute is around 60 seconds, that's right about 5 times. And maybe even more, you'll be distracted. Just naturally, that's your attention blinking. And then if we talk about a longer period concentration, we all know that average class lasts around 40 minutes, and then we all need a break because it's really hard for us to concentrate for longer. Was it easy to let go of irrelevant thoughts in the beginning of the class when I invited you to clear the blackboard? And that's one good question to ask, because that will show you how quickly you can reset your attention. And then another good question to ask would be, how messy is your working desk? Because really, before any task, it's good to take out or even hide all the relevant papers or stuff and just leave exactly what's necessary for the task at hand. And that's how our brain operates. It wants to operate in exactly the same way. So it's good to clear. And I even remember that years ago working at Coca-Cola, I have a very funny manager who tend to just shovel the papers in the drawer at the end of the working day and then start a new day with absolutely pristine and clear desk. Everybody was envious that honestly all his papers were in mass in the drawer. Now, next exercise that I hope you'll enjoy as well, because we all like these games. And what do we choose to see when you look at the picture? I don't know, first that I can see an old couple, an old lady and an old man. And I can see a vase in between them. And then if I look closer, I'll start seeing the musicians playing. Or two Mexicans, really, one musician and just another person sitting next. As you can see, we can never see the whole picture. We usually select something or something draws our attention first. And it's really interesting, for example, if you pay attention at this picture, how an earring of an old lady suddenly turns into a bottle. So you start noticing these details where the hair of an old lady is a curtain. So it all depends on the context, right? So our brain is constantly trying to work out the shapes and forms, some familiarity, and identify the context and put things inside that context. But what that context is, of course, will depend on our individual settings, our goals, our intentions, previous experience. So that's where our human side of motivation and other stuff comes in. So look here. I can hear some sound. Maybe, yes, please. Thank you. So look at this picture. Yeah, of course, we know cards. And this is a diamond card that I never ever really just recently discovered that there is number 8 in the middle of the diamond card. So now I invite you to focus and see this number 8. Obviously, it will be in white, surrounded by these diamonds. So again, it's just to show you how we pick the content from the bigger picture and decipher it just depending on our, internal settings, what we pick. So that's the third quality of attention, called selectivity, the ability to choose what to pay attention to. There is a very good parable in Vedas that describes the perception, because selectivity may be described by our perception filters or what's driving our perception. What are we focusing on? And the story goes that the bee flying will see the flowers. So from the bee's perspective, the world would look like flower. Where is the flower? And from the fly's perspective, it may look completely different. And it may be looking like, oh, cow's poo, and another one, and somebody else's poo. So my question goes, what are you going to fill your bucket with, or water your watering with your watering can? So that's somewhere where we can choose, and that's the essential kind of core function of our mindfulness. So what we focus on, that's what we see. And obviously, this will be driven by our values, by our goals, by our default settings, so to say. If we are not aware of what's driving us, that will be the subconscious programs that we simply inherited from our parents, from the environment as we were growing up. And if you see something where you get stuck in something, it's really good to remember that it can be reprogrammed, right? If we carry something dysfunctional, obviously nobody wants to be a fly, or at least we should balance. This will live in duality, and flowers, yes, but both things in this life. So we have to embrace both, but what we focus on really can be our choice. And then a mindfulness exercise, a question for this would be, if you're not sure what to focus on, if your choice is right, if your decision is right, if your wish, desire, or goal is right, there's a very good test that allows you to run this through the scale of time and scale of space, so to say. So the question is, just think of something that you really, really want. So it means it will narrow your filters towards these goals or these desires, because that's something you really want to come true. And then imagine everybody doing the same. So that's the test of scale. And then imagine where it will take you maybe in 5 years. Will it change the whole world for the better? Only you will benefit, or more people will benefit? The answers to these questions will give you clues how much support you'll get from the universe and how good is your choice. Another cool exercise, how easy can you switch? So it's a Necker cube. It's a common test in psychology. So you may look at the cube to the left, which is transparent, and you may see, most of the people will probably see front face of the cube below to the left, which would be this one, this facet. But then the second option is you can see this front face of the cube above and to the right, and the back going down. If it's difficult to focus on the left cube, there is an easier illustration for the same bit. To the right, with the color cube, where you can see the yellow facet front and down to the left, or you can see green facet to the front and to the right above. So the exercise for you will be, try to switch from one side to another as fast as possible. You can choose to focus on transparent cube to the left or the color cube to the right. For me, the right obviously is easier, but I like challenges. So I'll focus on the cube to the left and try to switch in the next few seconds back and forth between these perceptions. And you'll find how unpleasant and difficult, even like a rusty, maybe car. That's how my brain feels when I'm trying to switch from one perspective to another.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
Are we switching from the transparent to the color? Or are we switching the different facets of one.
Different facets of one. That's correct. Thank you for asking
Okay.
this question. Yeah, it's just for you to practice this switch between how you see it, right? As I mentioned, you can see room and left facet first, or top and right facet first as front. It's which facet looks at you. Just do this exercise for a few seconds, maybe 10 seconds would be enough, but that's still a very good exercise for your brain. And then eventually you probably will be able to hold two perspectives at the same time. And then eventually you'll be able to see the cube more spacious as well. I don't exactly remember what it was, but this test was used in the clinic. I think it has if you measure it for a minute or something, there is some indication of some even mental disorder like OCD or something where you can't switch, where you get stuck. And if I'm not mistaken, also related to the levels of impulsivity. So it's something that drives you crazy and you cannot switch. You become very impulsive. So let's leave it there. So obviously that was exercise 4, and we come to the 4th quality of attention, which is called switchability. In other words, you can call it flexibility. So it's ability to change attentional focus from one aspect of stimulus to another in flexible, efficient manner. I was mentioning when we get stuck, or what may be called obsessive compulsive disorder, when we get obsessed with something, when we have thoughts that really annoy us and we keep thinking the same thoughts again and again, obviously is not very healthy. So that's one way where we can't switch because we are too tight, so to say. The bolts in our brain were made too tight. But then there could be another option with switchability where you simply are too loose, and that's where thoughts just wander around. And it's also sort of attention deficit where we can't focus at all. We just drift from one thing to another, and there's no clear distinction, there's no border. It's more like a soup going on. So that means we are in some transitional state. Usually this happens, we lose it. We are loose when we don't have enough sleep, when we are tired, when we are affected by viruses, medications. All these things may distort our ability to switch clearly and efficiently. And also the switch obviously is important when we talk to someone and we are able to switch and differentiate between our own thoughts and whatever the person is saying. That's the most common issue. Okay, another tricky question for you. I have a picture here of this beautiful sunflower field, and it's our ability to zoom in and out. So you can zoom in and out with your senses, right? With our vision, we can imagine that we are looking at the field from a distance, and then we are zooming in and we're having a closer look. But then really, can we switch the speed of our mind? That's a very tricky question. The speed, for example, of our thinking is so much faster than the speed of our sensing. And I mentioned that before, that very common mistake is when in therapy people think, oh yeah, I understand. This is why this happened. This is why I was traumatized or whatever. This is the explanation. This is the answer. But honestly, partially the information is helping you. Yes, it's half of the solution because you know what's going on, but very often it's only half or even less than a half because there are emotions or feelings attached to this information that we're completely ignoring. And if we are talking about living life in full, it implies we are actually involving all frequencies, fast and slow. We are thinking and we are sensing, we are feeling, and it's always a slower frequency. feeling life. A full, rich, flexible, good life will include all frequencies where we are active on all levels. And then we are able to navigate and switch them at will and zoom in or speed up when we need it and slow down when we need it. That's why, again, common advice would be how often we stop and smell the rose in the garden, or how often we stop and just, I don't know, listen to the sound of waterfall or the river splashing on the rocks. All of this will help us to slow down, balance out, and make our life richer. One more exercise, that should be exercise 5. How many objects can we focus at the same time? So here comes another little exercise for you. For this one, you can quickly look at the picture, then close your eyes, and then focus in the center of your right hand and in the center of the palm of your right hand. And then focus in the center of the palm of your left hand. Can you hold attention in both hands at the same time? Center of your right hand and center of your left hand. It's not that hard. And now at the center of your right foot. So now you have 3 points to focus on. Center of the right hand, center of the left hand, and center of the right foot. And now focus on the center of the left foot. So 4 points to concentrate on. And now to these 4 points, add one more. Focus on the center of your head. And now see if you can hold all these 5 points together. So now you can open your eyes and just register how it was for yourself. And obviously this is called distribution. So when we are able to process more than one set of information at a time, in our exercise, these were just points of concentration, not information. But of course, in real world, it stretches much further. And we'll do a couple of more exercises on that in the end, because actually proper exercise would involve all of the qualities of attention, where you need your volume, you need switchability, you need focus, you need distribution, you need all of it. So the interesting fact is that adults can hold 2 to 6 objects at the same time. So now we had 5, it's accessible. Sometimes other sources will say that there are only 7 things that we can be holding at the same time. So if you're a multitasker, they would say, don't do more than 7. If you run a few projects at the same time, don't do more than 7, because you'll start losing it. And then good news, attention distribution can be trained. And I'm sure those of you who practice yoga, you will know that yoga does exactly what we've just done. It helps you to concentrate on different parts of your body at the same time and hold it all together. By the way, another exercise, a good exercise for holding lots of information together would be constellations, because they train family constellations as a type of therapeutic technique where they really train your attention to stay on few people and what's in between and what's above. But we'll talk about it later. There'll be good exercise for you. So one more exercise. How long can you hold your attention? And that implies that it's stable, that it's steady. It's not running like a crazy dog miles around in various directions. So here is a simple exercise. If you're lucky to have a beautiful view out of the window, with the horizon or with the perspective that your eyes can really stretch and enjoy, I invite you to look out of the window instead of this picture. If you are not so lucky, just look at the picture of the screen, and imagine, use your vision to train this stability and steadiness. So draw a straight line, the little kind of sun reflection, some reflections of the sun, this path on the water could be your guide. So just draw a straight line to the very end of the horizon. And obviously look and imagine that it's not a flat picture, that it's really very vast space and a huge perspective opens in front of you. So you have to just draw this line straight with your imagination, with your attention, and just hold it. I'll maybe count till 10 or 20 or 30, just 10, 20, 30 seconds. And let's see how stable you can hold it. A picture is not really good. It would be much better if you're looking out of the window as far as you can. Or simply next time you go to a lookout with a beautiful view. So just focus on the horizon, on the furthest possible point, and hold this. Hold as if you drew a line with your attention, imagination, and hold it. I also call it vector for your attention to flow. You may call it intention. There are also exercises in yoga that very well replicate this exercise. And that's actually how I discovered it, that just looking straight forward as far as you can and holding it, it gives you this firmness, assertiveness. It's really good exercise to practice steadiness of your attention and maybe even the strength or power of your intention at the same time. Obviously, this was related to stability and sustainability. That's the last 6 quality of attention that I put together in this presentation. So stability, sustainability is about reliability of attentional effort, staying on a task or stimuli over an extended period. Because yes, we can focus, but then we lose it, we drop out. In other words, you can call it presence. And you may ask yourself a question, how powerful is your spotlight? How often it's fading in, or how often it changes directions? And a couple of things there that are important. First, one interesting fact that the more aspects of, say, the object that you can discover, the longer you can stay on. And that's why when we are meditating, for example, during our meditation club sessions, I will always say, if you heard an instruction in meditation, and then it seems that the pause is very long and your mind starts wandering, don't do it, please. Just switch on all your senses and try to explore or focus on the last task as much as you can. So keep exploring the room, touching the objects, smelling, and the more details you pick, the more you can stay on. And it's another side of being mindful, because it's also, it gives you this ability to maybe become more sensitive to detail and ability to discern. I think it's extremely important, because just think of it. If you don't see the details, you actually have less options or less freedom. And the more you train your mind to see more details, become more sensitive to more details, you become more discerning, and you might start noticing more options in other things in life, more choices, and more choices always implies more freedom. And then another aspect of this stability, sustainability is how grounded we are. So I may call it shallow. If we don't have this, our attention is pretty weak and shallow. And this quality really makes it powerful. And there is a phrase that I heard, I think, from Vedas that would say that the modern world completely lost the ability to concentrate. But by this concentration, they didn't mean just ability to focus. They meant ability to focus for enough time, for a long time, and not lose the focus so it can build up your power. And when it reaches certain level, yogis can stop their hearts and do many other things. So that gives you this extraordinary ability. Good news, we can practice it. Keep practicing. And here are a few pictures just helping you to build a good association about what can help you to improve your stability or sustainability. And later, for example, if you remember, you can practice just think of a mountain. You are the mountain. And this will give you this grounding, solid effect, like anchoring you in the ground. And that will help your attention to be more powerful, more manageable, more stable. Same exercise. You can imagine yourself as a tree with the vast root system that holds you to earth, that also will make you more stable. So anything in life that can help us to that we can lean on or rely on will help us to be stronger, right? If somebody is pushing just you, that's one story. But if somebody is pushing you again as the wall, they cannot win because there is a wall behind you. So if you can find this wall behind you, and I'm talking, of course, in metaphorical language, any support can be a wall behind you that will help. And that's why the last comment here, that's why really spiritual people, they have this wall behind them. This is their spiritual belief that gives this ground and basis for them. But it shouldn't be just airy-fairy. It should be fully sense and grounded in the body, and connection with earth is important too. Okay. Two more exercises just to sum up whatever we've done. I called it stretching. As we have 5 senses: see, hear, smell, sense, touch. And then we have 6 senses as well. I invite you to focus watch at the moment. Take your attention away from the screen, or you may focus on this beautiful tree picture. And by doing this, we switch on or appeal to our vision. So we'll cover all sensory systems, see, focus on what, and explore the details. Then trying to add sounds. You are in the room and possibly there could be birds singing outside or cars, or maybe, I don't know, the sound of the fridge. Try to add sounds to the picture and stick to both senses at the same time, as if you were putting beads on a string. So it's similar exercise, but we are doing it with our senses. And then if you have really good sense of smell, try to add the third sense of smell. How it smells in the room. And then add the temperature in the room. I bet at this time, in this moment, it might become difficult, but that's okay. Just hold on to as many senses as you can, or sensations. So we see the picture, or you see the computer, the room, smell the smells, hear the sounds, feel the temperature. And then if you can, try to all of this external environment add your body sensations. It's very challenging because you have to focus on your internal and external at the same time. You might feel your chair or feet on the floor, and try to combine all of it. It's very challenging, I know. And yeah, it does feel like stretching. External and internal. what you hear, what you smell, what you sense. And then maybe just try to add your sixth sense. And you can't really see the space behind you, but just try to connect with that space as well. So the easiest thing would be you focus on your body and then you start exploring all the directions, front, sides, and the back. And somehow your mind knows. It can sense the back. And suddenly, oh, there is a space behind too. So obviously, this is a good stretching exercise that you can play. You can focus on everything around you with your senses. You can focus on what's going on inside of you. And then we have beautiful set of exercises in Undervise's Awakened Mind album that does exactly this thing, helps you to focus on one thing and then diffuse your attention and then switch on between internal and external, focused and diffused. So that's a good start as well. And in my favorite meditations course or intensive, there was a beautiful meditation where you imagine the sphere around you, or you can imagine your aura around you. If dimensionally it's hard to do it straight away, you can imagine to the front. Okay, stretch my attention to the front, to the back, to the left, to the right, above and under, and all together in the neck shape or a bubble shape. And then when you bring it all together, it really expands your consciousness. But playing with senses is fun too. Here is a fun slide to help you check your perspective or how many points you can focus at the same time. But now we look at it from more kind of subtle perspective, non-material. A human being is a part of the whole called by us universe, Einstein. So you can see 4 pictures. I am, you are, we are, the world is. And the last one represents the flower of life, that sacred geometric symbol of a universal life where we all are interconnected. So the next exercise comes straight into that. We've done similar exercise some time ago in another program, but I'll present it differently right now. So there are 4 perspectives. And the 0 perspective, you can pay attention at the very first picture, which says know me or default. You may question what that is when we look out into the world and we actually can't really and properly see it. We look through the prism of our default settings, or this may be, I don't know, family settings, social settings, mainstream perception. How I supposed to see this thing? And that's suppose that was it's meant. So you don't really see another person, for example, as one truly is. You see what you're supposed to see, or through the labels and templates given to you by other people. So that's the first one, which actually says know me, which would mean unconscious to us. And then first perspective, that would be me. That means you clearly see yourself, your interests, what you want. You hear yourself. That's common. That's where we all are if we are normal. And then second perspective, that's trickier when you start seeing yourself from a side, yourself from maybe observer's position or from another person's view. And you can see where that person is coming from. So you can see yourself through other person's eyes. Let's put it this way. And then the third one, this is when you can see you both, yourself and your opponent at once. So there's no longer separate you. There is no longer separate other person, but combined, as you can see. I see me, I see you, and I see us, what's driving both of us. So that's obviously higher perspective. And then the one we should all aim to be in is called systemic. So in some other sources, it might be called meta perspective. This is where you are able to see yourself and other people more than one opponent. You can see their points of view, not just your own. And then you can see the bigger perspective for everyone. So you can float above and see what's going on in between. And this in between becomes really important. My question here would be, how far is your perception from systemic position or systemic perspective? This is the last one where you see your own perspective, another, and more. I, you, they, in between, and meta position all above, how we all are linked together and what can be done in the interest of everyone. So that's really the meta position. So we finished with part 1, which is the most common, simple, maybe simple. But let's move on to exploration of attention from other angles. Languages on attention. Language groups, explanations, synonyms, hidden wisdom. I really was excited to explore this because I know that in Russian language, the word attention is completely different to what we know in English. Saying attention in English will relate to focusing the mind on something, state of being aware of something, dealing or taking care of something. And there is a list of synonyms related to this: concentration, absorption, immersion, obsession, awareness. And English comes from Latin, and Latin attention implies stretching one's mind towards something, which already becomes interesting. What are we stretching our minds to? Say in Italian, dealing or taking care of something. In Greek, it will be more about vigilance and alertness. Caution, care, it's more like to guard against. In Norwegian, again, attentive, observant. And then again, coming back to my native language, attention, if we look at the morphology, it will be deciphered as to listen, to hear, to heed, or to pay heed, or to take something in. So it literally implies you're receiving something. I thought that's very interesting. And if I look in other language groups like Hindu, Chinese, Arabic, Hawaiian, Japanese, Swahili, it goes even further. And you can see these cultural differences to what meaning is invested in this word. So in Hindu, it will be obviously about meditation, focus. So to concentrate, meditate, think of. But again, we talk about absorption. What are we absorbed with? Understanding, intellect, caution, awareness. In Chinese, it is action of dealing with or taking special care of someone or something. That's very interesting how they highlight this aspect of care. In Arabic, it's attention and drew. It's also about observation, listening, vigilance, readiness, caution. It really cares all of this, even functions of attention that I mentioned in the very beginning, talking about neurophysiology. In Hawaiian, act of reflecting, being thoughtful. In Japanese, pour. Again, that's very interesting. Concentrate. What are we pouring? In Swahili, it's even more interesting. It's called priority, which shows that, our attention is driven by our dominant needs, goals, motivations. In one word, priorities. To summarize, so we don't drift too far, attentive, what means being focused, concentrated. At the same time, language suggests that attentive means caring, considering, aware, mindful, reflective. It's also attending, present, immersed, absorbed. So this is something which I guess relates to being conscious. And then vigilant, cautious, alert, which is, I think, this first facet or aspect of attention that we all know, which basically draws our inner resources towards danger and survival. In my own definition, after all of this, I would say attentive or attention would mean mobilization of inner resources into a certain direction, which would be opposite to ignorance or absent-mindedness or carefulness. And again, in Vedas, they differentiate three gunas or three states of mind or three states of being. And ignorance is the very bottom one. And my life learning is really being ignorant is not a good thing, because sooner or later, the things you ignore will be asking you to pay for. So the longer you ignore something, the higher price you will pay. And it reminds me what we know from legal world, where they say that not knowing the laws doesn't let you be free from following these laws. In similar ways, I can say not knowing the universal laws or higher order doesn't give us exemption from following these laws. And whenever we break this order or distort the natural flow, we will be invited to pay. And again, the word itself, pay attention, that's very interesting. It turns into a currency, right? So it is a life currency. This question here, it doesn't really mean you have to answer it. It's more like you have to ponder on it and take it with you. So what are we allocating? Because we attend to something, we take in something. What are we acknowledging? What are we taking in or channeling? What are we mobilizing? We go into more subtle levels. And now I invite you to do a mini meditation that will help you to answer probably all of these questions. So please take a comfortable position and close your eyes. If you don't feel like doing this meditation, this is also fine, but I really invite you and recommend you to try it. It won't take long. It's really mini meditation. So let's do it. Please find a comfortable position and close your eyes. Feel your feet on the floor and make sure your arms and legs are not crossed. And keeping your eyes closed, mentally focus on your body. And bring your attention to the very middle of your head. And observe any sensations being born there in the middle of your head. Whatever comes up there, do not conceptualize, just watch these sensations. And now start moving your attention lower to the base of your skull. And notice some other sensations from the base of the skull. And now go lower and a little bit inside to the very root of your tongue. And as we all know, anatomically, the tongue is quite long and it goes all the way down into our throat. Just travel that path, relaxing your tongue and going the whole way down to the very bottom of your throat. Then gently drive your attention further through the space of your chest. If any emotions or fragments of thoughts arise, just keep moving without analyzing, without reasoning. Take your attention to the base of the torso, acknowledging your sensations as you move into the space of your thighs. And let your attention glide through them, further down towards your shin and ankles. And keep noticing any sensations along the way. And now find yourself in the foot and heel space. You can focus on both feet. And now go to the very center of your feet and your toes. Center of your feet and all toes. Once you get there, try to feel and select the space where your big toe is. And you may stay on the big toes of both feet and feel the sensations. Keep concentrating just on your big toes. And don't tense them up. And for a few moments, just keep your attention there. Don't go anywhere else. Just your big toes on both feet. You may soon notice that just from your attention focus on that area, there will be some new unusual sensations. This might be sensitive to subtle movement, maybe vibration, maybe heat. Maybe your big toes suddenly started seeming bigger and growing. Figure it out. And the longer you stay, the more clearly you will feel how great your sensations become in that area. So we're still with the big toes. And now you may notice that the sensations of your big toes is so great that it's literally difficult for you to keep your attention in that little part of the body. And they may be about to explode. And in some point, right now, allow yourself to extend the zone of your attention to add another toe, one at a time, and another toe. And you may even feel how each next toe is asking to be invited into the spectrum of your attention. So now feel all the toes of your feet. And now let the zone of your attention expand to the central part of your foot. All the toes and the central part of your feet. Stay there. And you might feel this expansion building up that it's really harder to hold. And now let yourself feel the whole foot or both feet with the toes. Remember to breathe calmly in your own rhythm and focus on your feet, whole feet. Whole feet, including the heels. And let your attention stay at that area. Keep sending your attention into both feet. And now focus on this tension caused by your attention and see how it's building up, how it increases literally to the point of trembling maybe, and how desperate you might be to let go and go higher. But hold on, just keep it there for now. Deliberately not let your attention go further, only after the ample choice. The density of the feeling should build up, may become denser and denser. So hold your attention there, just below your ankle joints. Feel this energy density until you cannot keep it any longer, and just let your attention flow up the muscles, up your shin ankles and up the body. And you may see your attention literally flooding the body space up, out of your control. So observe these sensations and then come back and open your eyes. So this was little meditation. And when I was doing it for the first time, I clearly felt that for me, no longer there is any doubt that attention is energy. Whatever we do, you might feel that if you compare your feet and ankles with the rest of the body, you will clearly feel them as more alive. And so here we come to the energy perspective. And first I need to define life because it's closely related, right? So I see life as creative source energy flow, like electricity running in the cable. And we as humans are channels and transducers, which means we receive and transmit this energy. And the illustration on my slide shows these pictures by visionary artist Alex Gray that reveals this energy toroidal fields around us that are coming in and out at the same time in multiple directions. And from here, we can move to the definition of attention. So attention will be this magic wand or vector, which directs the flow of our life energy, which points to what we would like to create and amplify. So it mobilizes our resources in a certain direction. Clearly, intention would be this vector held steadily and stably as a carrying weight for all other resources that can be eventually attracted, drawn to it, and help us manifest. And there is another famous parable that I mentioned. I think it's Indian Americans. It goes, the animal you feed most within you will win. So there was a black wolf and a white wolf, and somebody asked the American elder, which one would win? And the answer was the one you feed. So paying attention is like watering and fertilizing what we'd like to grow. And obviously, the more attention we give, the more energy comes in. And we should be mindful where we invest. And we should be mindful where we pump energy most, because it's like blood, right? Literally, your thought, the energy on the physical level will be reflected by the blood inflow. So blood will be the reference. And in another program, 12 interesting facts about the human brain, I mentioned that fact that it's literally reflected. Brainwaves reflect that. So when you think of something, the energy comes in and the blood flows in. So we become more sensitive to something. So that's why if we want to improve something, it requires more energy. So we become more sensitive, and thus we can differentiate more details. Okay, another interesting part, since we now know that the universe doesn't speak English, it speaks frequency and energy, and our life is a vibration. Let's look into brain waves and how we can measure attention, right? That would be brain waves. And we'll go from hot topic of today of attention deficit to health, and see how through maybe sometimes the illness or disorder helps us to clearer see what's the order and what's the right way, or what health looks like. And then we'll talk about how we see energy with the mind mirror. So obviously brainwaves will be physical manifestation of energy. And talking about brainwaves, we imply energy and frequency, since to me, brain represents a registering instrument for the whole body energy field. And there are waves of different frequencies. And here they're well depicted: delta, long one, theta a bit faster, alpha a bit faster, beta, and gamma the fastest. I wouldn't stop here and move on, because they're not the main focus of the presentation. So attention is a function of speed or frequency. Something that normally we consider as absolutely abstract can actually be measured by brainwaves. in simple words, we can say that in every single moment of our life, our brain works at a certain optimal speed or pace, which is represented by a balanced interplay of brain waves. And to give the very basics of it, look to this chart to the left, where we can see the arousal scale. Because we know that's why I said at any moment of time, because in 24 hours, we go through different cycles. We sleep, we wake up and we're a bit slow. This is low arousal. And sleep would be the slowest brain waves of delta, deep sleep. REM sleep or dreaming sleep would be theta. Then as we wake up slowly in the morning, that would be alpha. Gradual transition from intangible world into material world, right? We are getting back into our bodies. And then usually we have strong tea or coffee in the morning, and that helps our brain to run faster. And we get more and more aroused. We need faster brain waves to learn, and beta makes us human because that's related to our language. And that makes us different from animal world. And it makes us different in a way that we can think abstract terms, we can make plans, we can set goals, and we can control and direct our behavior. So mobilize all our resources in a certain direction. And that's what attention is, right? And then if it gets too high, like high beta would be stress, panic, anxiety, or like emergency mode, and it's not good either. So here you can see normal function is somewhere in between, which would represent a balance of slower and faster brainwaves. So that's as simple as that. And then here is a chart which also shows the speed that I just mentioned, and amplitudes. Speed goes here, 1/4 Hz slowest, 4/8 theta, 8/12 alpha. In my mirror world, we see slightly different ranges. I took this from neurofeedback world because our state of mind is a correlate of physiological arousal, right? And I just mentioned that. So too much beta would be mind chatter, unable to relax and tense. Okay, and let's go to attention deficit. So deficit means, our attention is shallow. And it's a neurodevelopmental disorder where we can see it as somebody being not attentive, inattentive, hyperactive. There could be signs of impulsive behavior. People struggle with sustaining focus and concentrate on tasks, leading to frequent distractions and difficulties completing tasks. And honestly, this most of us these days. And I wanted to emphasize that it may be interesting to see that it's a combination of two brainwave categories that contribute to this. And they could be, it's the ratio between beta and theta. And this ratio could be wrong because of too much beta and not enough theta. And that's where I often find myself, because I also have gamma, which is ultra active. And basically, we talked about the stability and sustainability and groundedness. So that's what that would be. Low theta would mean lots of thoughts and no grounding. I'm losing my body, I'm losing this grounding, and I'm often distracted or hyperactive. So it means like how the symptoms can talk a lot and very fast. Yes. Hyperactivity can be mental. Yes. Lots of happening at the same time in my mind. Can have a need to move and always be on the go. Yes. It's hard to sit still. And then there could be inattentive type of deficit where we have not enough theta and really high theta. So that looks different. And that's more if the first one was too tight and too busy. The second one is and like soup-like. So it's more like daydreaming. And it's hard to focus because you don't get this, it just drifts away. Internal distractions, external distractions, doesn't matter. You keep forgetting things. It's more about it's hard to hold the focus and separate one thing from another. So these are two different types of this deficit that we may have. One is more hyperactive, another is more inattentive or dreamy. So I hope I managed to emphasize and say, hey, if we look at the disorder, and disorder is about the ratio between beta and theta, that will probably give us a hint that the healthy attention would be healthy ratio and balance between theta, beta, and theta. Okay. So one more comment here. So because of electricity, because of the devices and screens that we look at, what happens, our circadian rhythm is delayed, so we naturally go to sleep later. And that shift or changes our average theta. I wouldn't overload with detail, but basically our theta as I said, beta theta used to be diagnostic biomarker for ADHD or attention deficit. So right now, theta beta ratios are indistinguishable between controls and individuals with attention deficit. This was the chart across time. And as you can see, if before control was that where control was less than HDD, right now they're leveling up. So we all becoming basically carrying this deficit in some ways. And so how it can manifest, once again, it manifests as vigilance. So hyperactivity, we become more vigilant. And this is hyperactive subtype, and inattentive subtype. We have impaired sustained attention, and we have cognitive deficits. So either way, we need to work on it. We need to do something about it. And then as a cause of the both would be the circadian phase delay. So theta beta ratio is now considered as a prognostic for attentional issues as a result of sleep restriction rather than a diagnostic for ADHD. So that's true, and you don't have to go too far because we all know self-regulation is completely disrupted and something that's supposed to happen naturally, where you go to sleep and you sleep when you need to sleep, you slow down, and you wake up when you need to wake up. Sun comes out and you're ready to, like, for your daily activities. It's no longer the case. Sleepy pill at night, coffee in the morning. That's the most common case. So the ratio would be as defined by Paul Swingle and clinical neurofeedback world. Theta beta normal should be 1.8 to 2.2. Obviously, theta should be always bigger than beta, and it's bigger at least 1.5. That's critical kind of barrier below which we are talking about disorder. So here, let's jump to those of you who don't know how brainwaves look like. That's how they look like. With the mind mirror, we see them as bars, and we see the frequencies, the slowest in the bottom, delta, theta, alpha, beta. Don't see gamma here, and that would be the amplitude of volume, how loud they are. So that's how we see the brainwaves in the mind mirror. And here I have a little blind test before we move on, so we could have a little bit more fun. If you have just a quick look at these three pictures, it's tornado vortex going up, tornado vortex going down, and you see a ball of energy. So which one you think would be the most balanced and stable? I guess you don't have to think twice, because if we talk about tumbling over any of unevenly distributed shapes, energy shapes, they could be easily tumbled over, right? It's not stable. And sphere or circle, if we look at in 2D, would represent the most stable shape. And that's literally how we look at frequencies with the or brainwave categories with the mind mirror. So fast, if we look, fast would be on the top, and that's conscious, slow in the bottom, and that's subconscious, fast again, externally oriented, slow, internally oriented. And we are trying to balance the both. So what I'm trying to say, fast, externally oriented conscious would represent beta, slow, internally oriented subconscious would represent theta. And clearly something approximating the sphere would be the third shape, would be closest to representing the balance. So we do have our own formula. We call it awakened mind. You may call it peak performance formula as well, associated with the state of flow, if these words are not, if this is not new to you, flow state. And beta theta ratio would be 1.6. So it does fit and correlate with the clinical world as well. And we say beta should be 1, alpha should be 2. Alpha sits in between beta and theta as a bridge. And in neurofeedback, if you look at the function of beta and alpha, so they both, the interplay, they're like different sides of the coin. As beta goes up, alpha goes down. As beta goes down, alpha goes up. So they literally represent just different sides of the same prose in a way. And here to inspire you and motivate you a little bit more, I provided 2 citations from Einstein and Tesla. So Einstein would say, we are slowed down sound and light waves, a walking bundle of frequencies tuned into the cosmos. We are souls dressed up in sacred biochemical garments, and our bodies are the instruments through which our souls play their music. And Tesla would say, my brain is only a receiver in the universe. There is a core from which we obtain knowledge, strength, and inspiration. I have not penetrated into the secrets of this core, but I know that it exists. Big brains, they suggest that what we think we are, and that's represented by beta, and what we truly are, you can call it maybe the spirit, theta, they come together. Our conscious mind, our identity as we know ourselves and what we think we are should be balanced out. Material with spiritual beta, conscious with subconscious beta, and theta. So I put question mark here because, of course, I can't 100% prove it, but I can hypothesize and say it's right, roughly right for sure. Awakened mind training, what we do, we try to balance out from the ordinary, and this looks like this, which reminds us this tornado up, where we try to balance, open the bridge, open green alpha, and start balancing beta and theta, and sphere, circle would be this oneness or unity. We call it evolved mind pattern. And this is very balanced, most balanced, and the awakened mind would be beginning of this balance, because clearly if you don't open up the bridge, you don't open up the communication, balance is impossible, right? Communication is impossible. So awakened mind training progressively drives you to establish this optimal, healthy or balanced relationship between beta, which, as I mentioned, represents conscious mind. It's, for example, me as a separate unit of material world, emptying out of my memories with my expectations and projections from what I already know. And theta is subconscious mind, obviously connected with the universal mind. Me as a fractal of spirit, as eternal soul, which is always not in the past, not in the future, but always in the present moment. And this communication, this relationship is mediated by alpha, the body bridge. And as we know, again, we train alpha often by training our sensory channels. So we can literally say alpha in this case is a sense maker. So when it all comes together, when what we know and what we don't know start making sense, we combine material and spiritual, we balance external and internal, and it all makes sense. That's when we are in balance. That's when we operate optimally. And one more citation from Tesla: our entire biological system, the brain, the earth itself, work on the same frequencies. Nikola Tesla. And here are different representations of this vector equilibrium or toroidal field around every single living thing on Earth. And the core of it, that point of equilibrium, I mentioned it many times. The borderline between theta and alpha would be Schumann frequency, Earth frequency. Yeah, we can say that this evolved mind pattern representing state of unity and oneness does represent our energy core when we are rooted, grounded, centered inside ourselves, and we are in equilibrium. And no surprise now why what we call alpha theta crossovers are associated with insights, healing, and transcendence. So that's this central point, which represents the balance, plus allows the flow of information to happen, healing to happen, transcendence to happen. And the last comment here is that, yes, I've seen natural mediums who are literally living in this state with eyes open. I've seen long-term meditators and consciousness explorers who live in this pattern, and that's their norm. They're in a very balanced state. So here, just to summarize, so what we do, in other words, we do train the brain to self-regulate, right? To be able to return to its core, to its center, optimize the speed for the desired function of state of mind. For example, we need fast but stable brainwaves to set goals, control our behavior, implies our thoughts, emotions, so-called directive mode. That's our beta. We need to be flexible to be able to switch to learning, receiving, adaptive mode. And that pretty much is all about alpha, that helps us to switch and be flexible. And we need to slow down when we want to relax, or meditate, or go into sleep, or we slow down when we are in a healing mode. So being stuck anywhere on any level obviously would be a sign of disorder and is unhealthy. So here I will show you a little video representing a famous Russian toy. I don't even know the English word for that one, but for me, this is a best representation for self-regulation. What does it mean? You can always return to balance. Like a healthy body sustains its homeostasis, right? We always regulate the temperature. We always fight all various sorts of viruses and bacteria that get in with our immunity system. It doesn't mean we don't have them. It's just we sustain the healthy balance, so we are able to suppress them as they come in. On the energy level, which is not so obvious and visible to our eyes, it's exactly the same. So this toy will always return. However you push it, it will return back. So it has this center, it has this core. So in a way, we are similar. So finally, we're coming to the end. So not much left. Attention problems and brainwaves. Volume. And I want you to maybe make some notes mentally, or again, send me some notes in chat, what you think your problems are. We have problems with volume if we know that our mind is too busy and cluttered. Our attention buckets are full. There's literally no space for anything to come in. We can hardly stretch, and that's all about beta. Focus, concentration. It's hard to focus on one thing at a time. It's beta. Selectivity. We may tend to focus on the wrong thing and often get stuck there. And for example, I have this tendency to have long and annoying conversations with my inner critic. And I had to look into creating some beautiful exercises for myself, how I can get out of there. Finding the switch is the key, really. And this switch is represented by alpha. Flexibility, it's hard to switch my focus. Selectivity is alpha, and flexibility is alpha too. distribution. I find it hard to stretch and focus on more than one object. It's hard to say, but all brain waves, they actually contribute all the time. But again, the key ones, as I described, would be beta and theta ratio mediated by alpha. Stability, sustainability, it mainly goes to theta. It's when focus doesn't last long, it's not stable and steady. And gamma is an enhancer or booster. You can say that gamma will boost and improve all the functions. And obviously, since we were talking about problems, it's good to mention what affects our attention. And again, I'll be stating what negatively affects attention. But in your mind to yourself, you can make a list of what you can improve to improve your attention. So look at it from a positive perspective. So there will be factors on every level. Usually you will find just, I don't know, physical, emotional, a little bit of mental, but I decided to combine all the levels of our existence because we don't exist just in the physical realm, right? So physical, by this I imply our general state of brain and nervous system, how we developed. And largely it's inherited from our parents, it's our genetics and how we grew up. Then any organic disorders or physical traumas or chemical traumas, any kind of traumas, poor sleep, unbalanced nutrition. Nutrition here is important because we should know, obviously, that carbohydrates would keep us agitated if we have too much sugar. If we have too much stimulants, we have to be really careful with that because that will drive us high. So if, I don't know, you're a vegan vegetarian, make sure you have enough protein in other ways, in other forms, because it's key for being grounded, for having enough theta, and theta deficit, as you can see, is a big thing these days. Then medications will distort the balance, and you may find yourself probably becoming more loose, what I call being loose, your thoughts wandering and struggling to concentrate. A lack of physical activity, yes, that's true. Any irritating stimuli will help be annoying. Fatigue, illness, that's obvious. Emotional stress, this is the key thing that contradicts or fights our attention. Psychological trauma will become overly sensitive to certain things where we shouldn't be sensitive, where it should be normal. But because we lost the balance, and in some other programs I explained that health implies balance. Whenever we lose the balance, it's a disorder, it's loss of health. So whenever we lost this healthy balance and we go into extremes, we become overly sensitive. That's not good. But in other ways, the way life shaped us made turn out that it made us beautiful psychics or mediums, just because by default, by the way we developed, we are ultra sensitive. But again, you'll need probably tools and knowledge of yourself to be able to take care and not damage yourself further, but use this sensitivity to serve you. So then on emotional level, unhealthy relationships. So we need healthy relationship, lack of motivation. And I was really surprised that motivation, like dopamine and other things that I mentioned in the beginning, just watching the sun for a few moments in the morning when it's not so bright, or during the sunset, it's a beautiful thing that can boost your motivation and thus improve your attention. And here is a beautiful image of a girl doing yoga. So that will help you probably to memorize that, I hope. The inability to manage emotions, yes. So just not knowing how to deal with emotions, that's why it's common in the present world. Conflicts with beliefs and expectations, yes. When something happens against our expectations these days, it might be a big drama. And again, expectations will be beta. And what beta is what we know about the world from our previous experience and general knowledge, but bigger It's definitely bigger than what we experience and what we know. So it should be balanced by theta. So then on mental level, it could be just general poor cognitive abilities, lack of self-awareness and understanding of how world operates, misunderstanding of this universal order, universal laws that all nature is supposed to follow. I call it truth, and we are distorting the truth. Then information overload, negative information, inability to control thoughts. So we may think that we are thoughts only. Thoughts is who I am. Thought defines me. We are so much more than thoughts and emotion, and even our rigid mental world is not all of it. What we know, it's not all that we are. And then we go further to spiritual level. Here I put doubt or lack of faith, materialistic focus, too stuck in beta, basically, absence of any of spiritual practice or ability to connect to this subtle world, subtle sources of energy, and no good examples of spiritual teachers, whoever we can follow. Hint was, while I was reading, I hope you made certain notes, if not literally, then in your mind, of what we all can do to improve our attention. And then the very last dessert for today, I called it implications of energy perspective, energy management tips and hints. In the very beginning, we said that attention involves three processes: perceive, process, respond. So if we look at attention as energy, we can look at it as we are conduits or transducers of life energy. So we receive, we channel, and we invest. And obviously, the quality of each stage of this energy processing cycle will directly affect the quality of our life. The first two stages, receive and process. So the more energy you're able to receive and process, the richer your life will be, the bigger the scale of your thoughts, emotions, experiences will be accessible to you. And what do we want? We want our container wide open, voluminous, example, what we believe is real and we are ready to see or perceive should be really as big as possible. So if you believe in miracles, that's one of the ways, because miracle is something that goes beyond your current perspective. So keep stretching. And processing power, we really want high processing power. And to me, it was a revelation to discover that, if we look at everything in life as energy, negative emotions is also energy. So instead of looking at it from the negative side, because it's something undesirable and causes discomfort, we should find ways how we can digest it or recycle it into pure energy and still intake it, because that will become our life energy, the feed for us. And that's exactly how as kids operate, because kids, they are our biggest life energy investments on every level. And if you don't give them enough energy in general, they will go into negative behavior mode just to get more of your attention, because they simply need, it's a necessity, it's a survival need. So they'll drain your energy anyway. So my learning was, okay, I should give it positive way so I don't have to pay high price in a negative way. Anyway, tips and hints for these stages. Minimize the distortion by setting our filters, perception filters or attitudes right, by seeing life as a learning playground, not seeing things as bad or good, just everything is good. And we're here to learn, not to be upset. Respect and welcome any form of life energy and be ready to embrace it. I just explained it through negative emotions example. Understand your limitations, acknowledging preconceptions, biases, expectations, fears towards what you are going to receive. Regularly update your maps of reality. Maps of reality, our values and our understanding of what is possible, right? It's our filters and attitudes. And then stage 3, which is invest, which is also critical, important stage for the quality of life. The better we invest our energy, the less waste, the more conscious, more dividends or interest we will receive, more energy will come back and stimulate, motivate us. More energy coming back will also imply we'll become more conscious, more spiritual, simply more confident and able to face life challenges, and thus healthier and happier. So some tips and hints for where to invest, and it's a good reminder to me as well, because I'm not perfect. I'm always learning. Interaction with life in any form, nature, enthusiastic or energetic people full of life, not crazy people, but who run healthy, transfuse healthy life energy. Truth in whatever form is always self-fulfilling. Interaction with dead objects, fake ideas, goals, low energy people is always draining. Fighting with anything inside, any sort of inner conflict or outside, is also the biggest energy waste. And it is self-propelling activity. The more you fight, the more you invest into a conflict. It's good to elevate your energy and improve your state first before investing into anything else. It will save your energy by preventing mistakes and basically draining, putting yourself in the wrong activities and doing it the wrong way, the wrong things. And then the last and the most important, understanding that mastering attention or energy is actually the only thing that you should care about in life. It's becoming more alive. Because, again, I can give him a good example from family constellations, where these days what most of people are preoccupied with, where can I take money, why money is not coming my way. And obviously, those who study family constellations, they're mainly involved into some kind of psychology practice or psychotherapy practice. And it turns out that the more energy you have yourself, the more clients you will have, the more money will find its way to you. The more you will able, again, receive, process, invest and give. Eventually it will manifest on the physical level in some material form. Literally, whatever we look at, we talk about managing our energy. So that was it from my side for today. If you'd like more, because I have so much more to share, more exercises, and I was thinking of maybe running or trying, testing some of my exercises. And one day, I hope I'll come up with revised Awaken Mind training with more exercises based on this energy vision that I absolutely love. And check out our Mind Mirror Meditation Club, because there'll be another meeting devoted to forgiveness next Saturday. So there we go. I'll stop sharing. And if you have questions, or if you would like to share anything you learned, any takeaways, please share now or send me an email. I'll be very happy to receive any feedback. Yes, I can see a hand. Who is this? Adrian. You're welcome.
No, that was up during the talk. So that no longer applies.
Okay. Well,
And here's a new hand. Okay.
yes. How would I say, Kai?
Just kidding. Excuse me. Thanks. That was really awesome. Very involving and attention grabbing. And for people aspiring to absorb this material, it really left a lot of food for thought. So thank you so much for that. I have a few questions. Is this recording going to be available to us? Because I would love to review it. There was just so much detail.
Yes, I always share the recording and I share the presentation, because I know it's like my capacity, my container is huge, and I tend to overload people. My apologies. You can always come back, and there is a lot to think about. Yes, that's like I plant lots of seeds. I give lots of hints and exercises. And as I said, I have a whole lot more that I really would love to test, because it's one thing when my busy creative mind generates this, but it would be nice most common things I'm struggling with, I'm sure I'm not alone in this world struggling with, very hard on the inner critic, or with my own expectations clashing with reality. And that's like big boom. And I'm like, oops, I need to come back to my balance, please. What can I do? And being involved in all kinds of stuff and have broad interests, I'm trying to compile it, bring it together so I can test it out on myself and I can take it out to others to enjoy and benefit. Yes.
I love the quantum approach, especially with that quote from Einstein. I just love it. I'm in a PhD program for integrative medicine that comes from a quantum perspective, and I'm focusing in on biofeedback and neurofeedback. For me, this is really very much on the right track. So I just had another question regarding, is mind mirror the same as awakened mind training? And then the second part of that is mind mirror an actual neurofeedback modality, or does it train you to actualize these awakened brain patterns? Or does it actually give you neurofeedback so that you can actualize these awakened brain patterns?
Okay, so let me explain. I can share when I send follow-up email, I'll include a short introduction of the mind mirror where I explain what it does, what it is, and what the differences are with clinical neurofeedback. So mind mirror represents electroencephalography, and not just this, it's a biofeedback device because we measure other things as well, galvanic skin response, heart rate, and we can measure temperature as well. So it can have combined feedback. It does provide feedback, right? But it provides feedback in this form of patterns, right? Where you see not a wave, you see the bands. That's the mind mirror software. When we talk, you asked about awakened mind training. It's basically you might call it attention training, you might call it mindfulness training, you might call it peak performance training. It will be all about it. Any of this applies. We use mind mirror to provide feedback on how you are progressing. So we can use exercises and meditations to train the brain. We hook you up and we see what's going on live. There are recordings, you can analyze it. There are ways where you can switch on the more traditional feedback mode where you can receive, say, train alpha, right? Alpha is the bridge. No alpha, no peak performance. Sorry, it's no flexibility, no nothing. You're just stick and stuck, right? Disabled, basically. You can train your alpha with classical feedback mode, with sound or visual feedback. So there are options for this as well. And Mind Mirror is the software. So now you understand. And the device itself, the listers, can be used by those who are trained clinically to do clinical feedback. And you can equally learn to run reports in ways and more classical terms, how it's done in the clinical world. So it's affordable device. But again, we specialize more on like heritage we have from the pioneers of this work, Max Kate and Anna Weiss. And I personally prefer when I don't want to rely on external device. It's good to have help and assist me, but I want to take away the mastery over myself. I want to learn to switch between states and navigate better, go faster, go slower. So I can do it myself without the device. And I can adjust my state, how to say, to my own preferences in the moment. Because some days, if I run the usual feedback mode, it may cause a headache. It's just too much for me. It's too mechanical. It's too violent. That's how I see it, right? When I do it through meditation, I naturally regulate how far I can go this day, right? I'm prepared to go. So that's.
Well, thank you. That's wonderful. Wonderful answer. Thank you.
Who else? Next one.
I wanted to share a research study that I did involving attention span. I was a occupational health nurse. I oversaw a large clinic, employee health clinic at the company known as Covidian. This was back in 2019. The research study lasted 18 months. This involved one of the divisions that I was responsible for. My caseload was anywhere from 2,000 to 2,600 people. I went to the quality engineers with a proposal to do hemisync training as an intervention to affect the defects made by the machine operators. And my hypothesis was that it all came down to attention span. I have been doing a ton of attention span education, and I decided, why not try a research project? This was unheard of because I was the meditation trainer as well at Covidian, and I had quite a built up for 8 years prior to the study, a track record doing hemisync focus state training. But it was thought by plant leadership that the hemisync training using the sounds, the binaural beat technology it would be a stretch for that population. So they agreed to me doing training, and it was mindfulness training. There was 3 interventions. A total of 46 people were involved. They were trained to use mindfulness by giving them an extra break. And then we had pre and post testing of attention span. And I was pleasantly surprised to see the results, because what happened after the first month of tracking the human-made product defect, and this is a medical device company at the time of quite a far reach, them making products that are proximetry, deep brain stimulation, pacemakers, etc. And so the accuracy of the product is of primary importance. So to conduct this study and find the results was pretty amazing, even to me. The results showed after the first month of tracking which is non-conforming retention products or defects that are made by humans, the defect rate went down to 0. And because there is a carryover rate with meditation, we kept tracking long after up to 3 months after the actual training ended and the agreement ended related to the machine operators using this. But the machine operators loved it and loved the results. We had a lot of subjective comments about this study from the machine operators, which spread throughout the other machine operators. And at the end of 3 months, 2 of the 3 groups were still at 0, and the third group had made 6 errors. And I was just amazed, because I've been a Monroe Institute trainer for 30-some years. This was in the last chapter of my working life at Covidian, which was then bought out by Medtronic. And so this study was written up and put in the library, and not necessarily in hard copy, but electronic copy, and went out throughout the divisions. So it didn't just affect Covidian, it affected 37,000 people. And I was inundating with feedback related to that study.
Thank you so much. If I ask you now to say, how would you summarize it in the form of recommendation for our participants today? What was critical for improving the attention span and avoiding these errors? So eventually it comes to, you said, breaks, it comes to meditation.
You have to first realize that you're not focused at work. And then there is all sorts of fallout from that. Memory issues, lack of concentration issues, and of course the performance issues. So the takeaway is the degree of focus achieved by meditation. I've been a trainer for a long time, and that's one of the big obvious physical takeaways is you organically feel more grounded and focused. And you organically, naturally become more intuitive. You organically choose better decisions in your life because you're seeing the bigger picture and the bigger picture. You're able to increase your data set when you meditate, and it doesn't take but 5 minutes. And that's what one of the machine operators was saying. He agreed that he had a very hyperactive thinking style, and he noticed that he was slowing down and making less mistakes in his life overall, not just at work.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
To know. Anybody else? Oh, we are ready to round up because it's over 2 hours and clearly we'll be losing our attention. Usually it's recommended to have a break up to 1 hour, 20 minutes, and we're already running like 2 hours, 20 minutes. Anyway, Judith, say a word and then we'll say goodbye to each other till next time. And I was thinking of maybe doing the program on the flow state, which I think should be looked at from various points of view and how we get there. There are common keys and there are individual keys, obviously, because we are all different and our filters are different.
Beautiful, Oksana. I really liked the exercises. That was fun. Yeah. And I thought you gave extremely detailed conceptualizations of the different types of attention and focus. And that's something we really don't usually get. I took a screenshot of your slide on what negatively impacts attention, and I'll send it out to a few people because it was wonderfully succinct, and I know they're going to resonate with one or more reasons that they have. It's really wonderful to have an explanation. If you have negative impacts on all 4 levels, yeah. So there's a tremendous stress that will certainly relate to it. But then if you negate the stress or counteract the stress, does the diagnosis go away? And I suspect that's it. And you really covered all that very beautifully. Thank you.
So literally, Judith, based on this presentation today, use yourself and maybe other practitioners and trainers who run Awakened Mind trainings. They can sell it as ultimate attention training. Come people, because we all need it. We all need it. We all need grounding more than anything else. And I was revisiting Unwise Protocol from another perspective, and I realized that we go beta, alpha, theta, and it's as if we are doing 2 waves. And beta, alpha, theta, the first round is the round that quickly takes you from, okay, let's remind ourselves that we have our body and relax a bit into the body. That's alpha. And then straight away, can we shift our register or just dive straight to this theta? And just do quick grounding before even we roll out and go into details how we can manage thoughts, how we can manage emotions, how we can work with sensory channels. Before we do all that, let's just do this grounding because it's so essential. Otherwise, we'll be blown in the wind here and there. As I said, like a crazy dog running around.
Chasing our tails.
Exactly. That's more like it. And it's a good thing to look into the flow state and look into as many exercises and tools we can find to help ourselves get grounded. And we discussed it during previous programs that we so much into our mental space. So here in beta, we keep forgetting we have bodies. It's just before people used to do physical labor much more. And we are so just go and do, I don't know, push-ups and sit downs. Can't do anything. You don't do yoga, don't do qigong. Just do it you sit down. So you remind yourself you have a body. No, we want to peel. It's easier. Give me a drop, so give me a peel. So
Right.
that's
We'll certainly look forward to your flow program.
yeah. I don't know where it will take me because it's a creative process. I never know what eventually will be there. Do you have a talk about the inner critic? My idea is that right now I'm compiling all the exercises from various spheres of interest. And I picked quite a few from Family Constellations course and from other psychology sources that, will be helpful. Working with, say, annoying thoughts, I found my own and tested and even shared with some friends, and they love it. In the critic, it was, we have transformation meditation that can be used, but I do have a few more tricks and exercises that can be done for inner critic. Then expectations and then even impatience. For me, it's more relevant. Like my impatience sometimes stands on the way as well. It becomes this bias that I want things faster, not within the natural or possible flow of things, and get frustrated. So all of these little things, and I'm sure I'm not the only one.
Definitely not.
Okay, I have a quick look in chat. If yes, so please, because it's a huge topic, and I'll answer. Class portal, distraction. Okay, I checked the chat. So please, I'll be very happy to get any feedback in any form. If you're interested in, I don't know, in the critic or any other topics related to any of these, alpha, beta, theta, we'll be thinking of the revisited awakened mind training, which is anyway good enough in the present form because it will improve your attention. Okay, thank you everybody, and see you next time or even next Saturday if you are ready to join me in the meditation club. Thank you for
Sounds
your
great.
attention, for your patience, for your ears. Thank you. Bye.